All right, so this is Mr. Rancourt, and I'm going to read you the introduction to activity 4 called Gene Combo, and then go through the directions with you. Okay, so you should be following along in lab aids, in your lab aids manual on page 32. So you have explored a few hypotheses to explain critter breeding data. Several scientific terms will help you talk about your models for how tail color is passed from parents to their offspring. In critters, there are two possible tail colors, orange and blue. These two versions of tail color, blue tail and orange tail, are called traits. Which trait a critter has for tail color depends on which versions of the tail color gene it receives from its parents. Different versions of the same gene are called alleles. Tossing coins is one way to model how genes are passed from parent to offspring. All of Sky and Poppy's offspring, including two named Ocean and Lucy, have blue tails. Why do some of Ocean and Lucy's offspring have orange tails? Find out by modeling the transmission of alleles for tail color from Ocean and Lucy to the third generation offspring. So the guiding question or the purpose of this lab, what you should know by the end, is what happens when two parents with different traits have offspring and why? Okay, turn to the next page. So in this lab, the materials you're going to need for 2 pennies. Can you see that? Yeah, you got it. And student sheet 4.1, it's called Gene Combo Results. This will be located in your DNA Diner, okay? And it will look like this right here, okay? All right, so the procedure, step 1 says this. In your group, divide into 2 pairs. Each pair should complete steps 2 through 7 and read the information about the coin. I always say this backwards, coin tossing. I hate this. Take 2. Read the information about the coin tossing model in the box below. So here's the rules. So here's how you do it. So the coin tossing model. Step A. The outcome of a coin toss, head or tails, represents the copy of tail-colored gene that is contained in the sex cell, sperm or egg, contributed by a parent critter during sexual reproduction. Heads represents the blue tail version, or the blue allele version, and tails represents the orange allele of the tail-colored gene in this model. So blue is heads, tails is orange. A future offspring critter receives a copy of the tail color gene from each of its 2 parents when fertilization occurs. So one's going to receive a tails, one's going to receive a heads, or vice versa. Each side of the coin represents one of the 2 alleles for the tail color gene carried by each second generation critter, such as Ocean and Lucy. Here's the most important part, information. Blue tail color is dominant to orange tail color. This means that if a critter has at least one copy of the allele of the gene for blue tail color, its tail is blue. A critter has an orange tail only if it has no blue alleles for the tail color gene. The orange tail color trait is recessive, or it's hidden in the presence of a blue tail color trait. Okay? You're going to bypass step 3. And we're going to go right to step 4.
So before we begin step 4, let's review a couple of the important pieces of information that Mr. Rancourt shared with us. The first thing that we need to remember is that when you're flipping a coin, if you flip a heads, that will represent the blue allele of the gene or the blue tail color. And tails represents the orange allele of the tail color gene. Furthermore, it's important to recall that blue tail color is dominant to the orange tail color. So if you flip at least one head, the tail automatically must be blue.
Yep.
The only way that you can get an orange-tailed critter is if you flip 2 tails.
Thank you for saying that. That's a great point.
All right, so let's move on to step 4. In step 4, it says decide who will toss a penny to represent Ocean. The other person will toss a penny to represent Lucy. Mr. Rancourt, I'd like to represent Lucy. So I guess that leaves you with Ocean.
Yep.
The outcome of each toss determines the tail color gene each parent passes on to each critter pup. In step 5, it says have each person in your pair toss a penny. For each toss, each partner should. Now, those of you that are at home watching this video, Mr. Rancourt and I are going to demonstrate this activity for you. We're going to ask that you pull up student sheet 4.1 and that you record the data just as Mr. Rancourt and I are. This is the data that you will be using in order to complete this activity at home. So to repeat that, you are doing the lab simultaneously with Mr. Rancourt. Whatever we record on this sheet is what you also will record at home.
Gotcha.
So what you're going to observe us doing is holding a penny in our hands, shaking it to the count of 5, and then dropping it from a height of approximately 20 to 40 centimeters onto a desk. We're going to leave the pennies on the desk until both members of the pair have completed their toss. Then in step 6, it tells us to work with our partner to fill in the first row of the student symbols, 4.1, gene combo results, as shown below. We will use the following symbols to keep track of the genes. A big T with a line under it, or a capital T, as some would say, would represent the blue tail allele, and the lowercase t, or the little t, represents the orange tail allele. Now, you technically could use any letter you like, but big T and little t can remind you of tail color. To make your gene symbols easy to tell apart, we suggest you always underline the uppercase letter of the pair. For example, if Ocean's coin toss results in a heads, that's going to be a big T. And Lucy's coin toss results in a tails, that's a little t. Therefore, your first entry would be, as you see right here, for offspring number 1, Ocean flipped a head, which is a big T. Lucy flipped a tail, which is a lowercase t. When we combine the offspring's genes, okay, we'll get big T, little t. Anytime we have a heads and a tails, remember heads is dominant over tails, the blue trait color is going to dominate, or is going to be the one that is actually going to be shown. So please make sure that you have student sheet 4.1 out. Mr. Rancourt and I are going to go ahead and begin flipping the coins that represent the alleles for tail color. Again, please record exactly what it is that please record your contributions from Ocean and Lucy on this paper, just as Mr. Rancourt and I are. Okay, Mr. Rancourt, do you want to go ahead and flip?
Yep.
Wait, where'd my coin go, Mr. Rancourt?
Did I steal it?
I don't know.
I'm all about stealing money.
Uh-oh. Let's hit pause. Where'd it go?
Mm-hmm.